All right, we are live with Anthony Hancovsky at Everyone Makes Progress. Now, is that your only company currently, or are you still doing other things? What are you doing? Tell me about what's going on with you.
I got my hands in all kinds of stuff, Mike.
Sure.
The meat and bones, probably what I'm doing these days, still revolves around my construction company.
Okay.
So I'm splitting full-time there, full-time at Everyone Makes Progress.
Yeah.
Then we got a couple other little ventures going on. We started a company called CoinBook that deals with some cryptocurrency type stuff.
Sure.
I'm involved in a space downtown at the East 5th Arcade where we're starting a co-working space. And through that, we're also utilizing a nonprofit we started called BlockU, where we're going to teach people how to do blockchain-based coding. So.
Yeah. So, to kind of give everyone a little bit of a background, Anthony, obviously he's in all sorts of other things, but he's made a hard shift in his life into blockchain-oriented companies. I met him late last year, when we were kind of surrounding this Blokland conference. He was working on a company, Everyone Makes Progress, still is, and the idea behind that is a series of blockchain-based tokens and technologies that help make a healthcare system or a gym membership system.
So,
take us a dive into that.
I'll give you a little background. So Everyone Makes Progress. The premise behind that is giving people the ability to manage and maintain their health and wellness goals.
Sure.
And by doing that, we give them control of their data. So basically, when we have all these different devices, you got your smart forks and you got your smart beds and your watches and the smart scale and all these different things that are capturing all this data that we can use to actually understand who we are from a health and wellness standpoint, and then taking all of that stuff and actually putting it into one location. Right now, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We have a lot of great ways of capturing this data, but they all go to different places. And someone trying to understand who they are from a health and wellness data standpoint, they need to aggregate that data somehow to one place to actually be able to look at it all at the same time. Right now, the only way to really do it is spreadsheets.
Sure.
And that gets to be time consuming, aggravating. You lose track of stuff. You can't run AI against Excel spreadsheets to actually try to figure out how to reach your goals without knowing how to do it on your own. So some computer thinking will help allow people to do that. And then, on the back end of that, with that data ownership portion of it, Fitbit can no longer take your data and then use it to reverse market you. You now have that data, and if Fitbit wants it, you can sell it to them.
Okay.
Or you can donate it to a health study so that you can maybe help save some lives or figure out why people get certain kinds of diseases. And then the last part of that is sharing it with like your doctor, your fitness coach, or whoever it is that's helping you trying to maintain your health and wellness and reach those goals.
And that's all through Everyone Makes Progress?
Correct.
Okay, so it's changed a little bit since the last time I talked to you, right? The scope of it?
So I think last time we spoke, we were kind of on the same path.
Okay.
I think we've done a lot of market validation work since then.
Okay.
Which has expanded, the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the backside of that is how do you get people to give you the ability to capture their data and store it for them. So on the front end of what we do, we have created a universal gym pass using QR codes and things like that that will allow people to walk into facilities that actually help them generate that data.
So if you were to describe Everyone Makes Progress to somebody that didn't understand technology, what is the 2-sentence problem that it solves?
So we allow people to get into places without having multiple memberships. So if you think about an active person that's doing yoga, maybe a spin class, they got a gym membership. All three of those things require 3 different memberships generally. Mm-hmm. We give them the ability to do those 3 different things in the same week without having 3 memberships.
Okay.
And then, obviously capturing that data and taking a look at it.
And where does the blockchain come into that?
So the blockchain allows people to actually store that data securely.
Okay.
And share it in an easy public way, so that if you wanted to send some data to your doctor can say, yeah, this data's from this time, this day, and this is what it actually is.
And there's some kind of encryption on that then to also keep that data private while also being on a public.
Yeah, so the way that we have it set up, I don't want to get into giving away like our proprietary
Sure.
flow of that data, but you know, it gets stored privately. We never see it. Only that user can see it, and then they have the ability to you know, give access to certain people based on passing around the private key and stuff like that, so that someone actually can dive in there and take a look at it.
Sure. And so there's you have an array of yoga studios, then gyms. You have like chiropractors. I guess how deep does that go?
Yeah, I mean, so you know, when you sit there and look at it on paper,
Yeah.
you know, one part of that project that we haven't talked about is the actual cryptocurrency incentive program that happens through gamification. So you get these rewards, and you can use that for anything in our vision, right? And it goes beyond chiropractors and gyms and yoga studios. You know, you're talking your hairstylist, you know, the people doing the women's fingernails, anyone that's health and wellness related, that allows us to actually help them reach more customers.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So when are you, I guess, what does your roadmap look like? Your public facing roadmap?
Yeah,
right?
so right now we have most of the code's written.
Okay.
And it functions. You know, obviously we're trying to make sure everything's secure so that people's data isn't taken from them. You know, so we're kind of brushing through the code again to make sure that's up to par. And then that's the backside blockchain stuff. On the front end, we are finishing up the UI. We have a soft release on our MVP, should be done by the end of the month.
Okay.
From there, we have some conversations already started with gyms and studios and such.
Sure.
That we can get in there and start to do a beta test network.
So everyone's going to start making progress end of July?
Yeah, that's the goal.
All right,
yeah.
all right. So as I am frequently running around social media promoting Fortify Your Data, I have stumbled upon potentially John Paganini is a part of Everyone Makes Progress too now, right?
Yeah, so we reached out to John Paganini, had a couple meetings with him, and we brought him on. He's our Chief Information Officer.
Yeah.
So me and John were actually down in Columbus yesterday at Tech Nation.
No, John's an absolutely great guy. He was on the podcast too.
Yeah, John actually told me yesterday that he was your first victim.
Yeah,
so
he was. He was.
I think
my
that's
first
exactly
victim.
how he stated it.
Yeah, we threw him to the wolves. We had no plan. It was pretty funny. You know, he's been in the industry for a while, although new to blockchain, I guess, in terms of running with that on a professional level. At least when everyone was hanging out in like the Bitcoin markets, I don't think that he was a part of that. I could be wrong, but he's been in IoT for a long time.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of experience with
Yeah.
you know, like health systems and things of that nature. He's had his hands involved in health startups and had a couple exits and stuff like that. So it's a great addition to our team.
Yeah, that was a great grab for you from a professional level. Not only is he well respected, he's just a great guy.
Yeah.
That he really is. So I wanted to give him kind of a loose shout out. Thank you for being my first victim, John. But also, I think that is a form of validation for you guys, that you have some, so definitely some of the major business leaders in the area kind of behind you.
The three of us co-founders, we come from a variety of different backgrounds. Our CIO, Chris Luske, he comes from like the financial analysis world and big data analytics. Brian Cairn, he's our COO. He also is a lawyer. Comes from a background of establishing partnerships, networks, and running law firms. So it's great to have him, kind of overseeing things, and then also, being our lead counsel. And then myself, I'm just, since 12, I've started my own businesses and found a way to kind of make my own way through life.
And how did you find your way into the Bitcoin crypto world?
So, I've kind of had my eye on Bitcoin since about 2011 2011, 2012 when all that Silk Road stuff was going on.
Okay.
I never kind of divulged myself into it.
Sure.
I'm like, what's this weird token that's worth money?
Okay.
And then, fast forwarding a couple of years later, I met a guy through my construction company doing construction work, and we just had a lot of conversations. He was an ex-commodities trader, and he had retired, and he was putting a lot of energy into blockchain. And he kept trying to get me to buy Bitcoins.
Okay.
I almost bought 10 when they were at like $220. I kind of still wish I would have.
Yeah.
But I invested in real estate instead. And about a year or two after that, he called me up one day, and he had an issue with the disconnect to his hot tub, and had an electrician out there that was trying to get him like $300-400 for the service call. And he told me he felt like he was getting taken. Would I come take a look at it? So I drove down there that afternoon and told him, hey Frank, $100 and a $20 part, and we'll have this thing running. He's like, when do you want to do it? So we rode over to Home Depot, got that thing fired up, and when I was done, he was like, what do you want? And I'm like, I told you, give me $100. And he was like, well, this other guy wanted to take me for 300. How about 300 in Bitcoin? And that's where it started. That was May of 2017.
Sure. What are your Bitcoin trading habits then in 2019?
So in 2019, I'm more of just I kind of just been watching.
Okay.
I'm kind of with my major focus last year on everyone makes progress, and I was in a motorcycle accident. I kind of scaled back from actually working. So 2019's kind of been more about like readjusting my financial situation, getting the construction company back up and running. So I haven't done a lot of trading.
Yeah.
I have a few things that I'm holding.
Sure. What are you holding?
I don't want to give anyone.
I
don't want to give anyone advice because I don't want to be the guy that costed everybody their.
I'm just interested. Everyone has different.
But I got the big names,
Yeah.
I really like Ethereum. I like Bitcoin. I like
Waiting for you to have like some fringe player in here.
We're developing our products on the Ethereum blockchain, so it
Sure.
wouldn't make sense for me not to have Ethereum.
Yep.
But there's some of those other altcoins out there that I kind of believe in.
Big Dogecoin fan.
I don't really have no Dogecoin. I think probably the funniest one people would look at would be Kincoin.
Okay.
That in my opinion has potential.
Sure.
So I wouldn't tell anyone to buy it, but I do hold a lot of them. So
okay.
If that thing ever goes anywhere,
we'll never talk to you again because you'll be on an island.
No. I'm rooted here in Cleveland. I'll never
Sure.
leave. One of my goals as a kid was to help redevelop this city as I watched it fall apart, and now there's a lot of great things going on here. Mm-hmm. I'm intertwined in a lot of different things, and what I've learned through my experience with these tech companies is that there's a great ecosystem for entrepreneurs here in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of great resources, but there's just not enough of that. And then there's some gaps, where if you're not in certain groups and don't know certain people, you kind of get passed by. Which leads me to that co-working space. It's kind of like a co-worker / accelerator that we're getting ready to set up over there.
Who's setting that up?
So right now I'm running that with me and Tony Sparks.
Okay.
We have some backing through some other people. I have a meeting with another guy tomorrow who's had success running accelerators in Northeast Ohio, mainly out of Akron, who's interested in what we're doing. So we're trying to figure out where that lies and what kind of coordinated partnership we might be able to form there with him. So.
Okay. Yeah. When do you? What's kind of timeline do you have on that project?
So we have some furniture in there now.
Okay.
We have the space.
Yeah.
It's more about putting the roadmap together, making sure that it's set up in a way to where it's actually going to help people, and creating some marketing collateral to start getting bodies in there.
Yeah.
I would say by the end of the summer, we'll have people in there. One of the things we're also doing with that space is we're going to couple the Block U initiative with the co-working space to allow anyone that comes in there that wants to learn how to code, they can become a part of that program.
And what, just for clarification, what is the Block U initiative?
So Block U Initiative it's a nonprofit that allows us to teach people how to develop blockchain-based coding, apps, things of that nature. Where we start with that is you need to have a basic understanding of JavaScript and the desire to want to learn. And through that, we feel we're talking to a couple of the universities around here with potential with some partnerships to help some of their students, go from school to finding their niche to be able to get into the market. And our passion is just to teach people how to do the stuff that we think will become the technology of the future.
And I guess that kind of leads me into a question I have, your take on the debate of like the future of blockchain, right? So there was a lot of hype behind blockchain, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and it seems like that hype's kind of died down, and what hype is left seems to be more centered back on cryptocurrency. Do you think that is a fair assessment? Do you think that is what are your views on blockchain and the future of it and the really sustainability of it as a technology in and of itself?
So, how do I want to say this? Blockchain, to me, I think that a lot of people are still trying to figure it out.
Sure.
Which is why you get this roller coaster ride back and forth on, oh, it's awesome, oh, it sucks, right? And that's what you hear. You hear one or the other. You don't really find too many people in the middle.
Sure.
And I think that the hype around the cryptocurrency comes from the media. They did a great job of showing how much money everybody made in 2017, which is then, kind of pivoted back to, then they showed how much money everybody lost in 2018. And now as prices are starting to kick back up, you got that hype because everyone's trying to find that get rich tomorrow scheme,
Yeah.
So I think that's got a lot to do with it. When it comes to blockchain technology, my belief is when you are talking about private blockchains, they're more of a sophisticated database than an actual blockchain. I truly believe you need that public element for the complete transparency, and no certain small group or certain numbers of nodes can actually control the technology. And I think that's where the cryptocurrency comes into play, because without the cryptocurrency attached to the blockchain, there's no incentive for the miners or the proof of stakers or the other people that are authenticating these transactions to actually do the work. And I think that is the other side of why cryptocurrency is becoming, more of a thought process today, because I think a lot of other people are starting to realize that. And it's in my opinion, the driving force behind blockchain. Without the cryptocurrency, there is no blockchain.
Bitcoin is blockchain, right? That is the use case for blockchain. My concern is with everyone, a year ago or 2 years ago, we're trying to just put the blockchain into any project and all projects, right? And now a lot of companies that are really centered around blockchain are facing that criticism. And now all those companies really have to look at themselves and say, should I be using blockchain or should I just be using a big database, right? And that kind of goes into what you're talking about as a private blockchain. Because of that, do you think that, what are some good use cases you still see for blockchain being implemented today?
So let's just talk about the chain of custody and food, right? It's very advantageous for food suppliers to know when and where these food products come from, so that we can understand, when there's a romaine lettuce case like we had a couple years ago right before Thanksgiving, the biggest eat day of the year. Nobody eat romaine lettuce when really it was just from one farm, but they couldn't identify it right away. Blockchain allows that to happen. It's really good for logistics, anything. You can track anything, know where it's at. I know we got good ways of doing that now, but I don't think that those records are as immutable as what blockchain allows them to be. When we talk about data, I think that's the best use case for blockchain. A lot of people talk about these different interfaces within structures, right? So when you talk about things like people that are within the system of the government, right, that may have mental illness or various different things wrong with them, you know, and I'll use an example that I heard yesterday at Tech Nation. You know, there's a big problem in Columbus with trying to understand the homeless community, right, and what attributes to them being homeless, and it's a multiple of different factors, and everyone within that system, you know, the mental health people, the homeless shelters, they're all collecting this different types of data, but they're all using different systems, and then they can't find a way to make that data talk to each other or even share it collaboratively without brushing into privacy issues, right? Blockchain can help solve those problems by creating a system sort of similar to what we do at Everyone Makes Progress, where we can store data privately to that user only, and they can share it with who they want to share it with. Organizations can be that person. It doesn't have to be an individual. And then organizations can then shift and show where this stuff's going, and then they can also track who's looking at it.
And you think that blockchain's the best technology possible to achieve that goal then?
When you want to do public sharing, I think so, yes.
Okay. But I'm just still trying to wrap my head around. There's a lot of programs out there that definitely don't need blockchain, or maybe they tried to throw blockchain into the equation when they really didn't need it. So it's tough, right? And I think that most of the practical applications for blockchain are probably best suited for some kind of currency-based system, right? Or some kind of rewards-based system, some kind of maybe there's smart contracts implementations as well, but yeah, it's tough, right? So obviously you're involved in Blokland, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so as we move into that, which is a blockchain conference in Cleveland, what do you think the challenges are going to be for messaging?
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so like when you're messaging for people to get involved in Blokland or to come to the conference, right, and there's a little less hype, like what do you think? How are you helping promote that, or how's Blokland going to help push that out?
So I think a lot of people get lost in the way that initiative was formed because of the terminology Blokland.
Yeah.
The focus isn't, I don't think, entirely on blockchain businesses. It's more focused on technology.
Okay.
And I think a good way to capture an audience to get more people to show up at that conference is to do similar things to what was done last year, right? You have to think last year when Bernie Moreno came up with Blokland and started pushing this initiative, it took 4 months to put together this conference, and it was probably out of the 15 or 20 conferences I went focused on blockchain last year, the best one that I went to. And I'm not just saying that because I'm from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Or I believe in that initiative. It really was. And when you go around, you talk to people that were there, they share similar stories. So I think that one of the key elements is to do the same thing we did last year, where we had AT&T come out and make some big announcements. IBM made some big announcements.
Yeah.
KeyBank made some big announcements. So when you start to bring these big players in that aren't just focused on blockchain, and they start making some big announcements, I think people want to come and see that. And I think that helps sell some tickets.
What do you think? What do you think's going to happen in that space with like Libra and Facebook's cryptocurrency? What's your take on that?
So I think that's like that whole yin and yang situation, right? You got the good and the evil there. We all know the evils of social media.
Okay.
But at the same time, we also know how many people are addicted to Facebook. So I think that this will help introduce more people. I think we're still before early adoption of blockchain. I think this might push us over that hill into early adoption, because people, if they want it, they're going to have to get it. I think that we need to be very cautious with Facebook and the way that they operate. I mean, there's a lot of data issues and things like that's been on Facebook's back. So I think that's something we need to keep an eye on. But I think overall that it's going to get more people to understand what this technology is.
Sure.
And then it's also going to force them to, we're still under 2% of the world's population owning digital wallets, right? So I think with Facebook doing it, and being a worldwide, social media outlet, that a lot more people will be attracted, a lot more people will be using the technology. And I think that once, more of these mobile apps like what we're building and these day-to-day uses of blockchain come out, that we'll see more people actually having these digital wallets and using the stuff.
Yeah. So, just to backtrack a little bit, you're wearing your Cavs hat. You're obviously you've been preaching the Cleveland gospel a little bit. What do you think Cleveland's path is to becoming more relevant in the national or even global tech industry? Do you think blockchain and those initiatives that we have locally are the answer, or do you think it's going to require a little more than that?
I think it takes a mix, right? So I think that if Cleveland wants to become relative, right, they need to have companies here and jobs here, right? We have great educational institutions, but a lot of that talent leaves. And there's only two ways you're going to keep that talent here. And it's to help develop companies that are from here, and then to pull companies from outside of Cleveland into Cleveland. And I think that that's the secret to the sauce, right? So if we can figure out how to catapult some of the companies that are currently focused on technology, right? And we have a lot of different technology companies in Cleveland because of the hospitals. When we can pull a couple of those companies up, which we've already done with things with like Cover My Meds and stuff like that, other people see that, right? And then they want to come, and then we'll be able to attract some of those other outside companies, whether they be startups or established big companies. And with the coupling of those two scenarios, that will help catapult Cleveland into the tech scene.
I like it. So, one thing that I know about you that's interesting. Obviously, you're running a company. You're involved in a lot of these kind of community efforts. You have your construction business as well. What philosophies that you have, or what philosophies do you have rather, that are helping you balance all of this as like a leader?
So I use a lot of things that I've learned over the years to do the leadership stuff. Mainly, one of the things that I've always learned is be the first guy into the hole, right? Mm-hmm. We'll use construction for an example. I'm not going to ask a guy to go pick up the garbage on the floor if I'm not going to go do it myself.
Sure.
Right, so I'm right down there with them. And I think when people see you in the trenches with them, mm-hmm. they're just like, well, where are we going next? Mm-hmm. I think that's probably at the heart of my attempts. Mm-hmm. I think utilizing some skills that I learned studying nonviolent communications mm-hmm. helps, because having open waves of communication allows for understanding and acceptance. And I think being able to have that with the people that are around me, that we're all focused on the same goal, and we're able to communicate, and we share the same passion and the same drive, it kind of just does it on its own. I'm just kind of the guy that, let's go find this guy or this is what we need, and then once you get that small group, it started with 3 of us, that everyone makes progress. We got a call set up next week, there's 10 of us working on this thing now, so yeah. You just figure out who to trust, who not to trust.
Sure.
And delegate roles, right? Like, I know I can't do everything. I know I'm intelligent, but I'm probably not the smartest guy on my team.
Certainly don't want to be, right?
But I know who to go to for what,
sure, sure.
And I think when you can identify those things, and you can pass that buck of responsibility onto that individual, that makes them work harder, because they're like, this guy believes in me.
Do you think that you've always been a natural leader then?
Yeah, I've never been a follower.
Okay.
I've always done my own thing. I think that comes. I'm a middle child. Okay. I think that's where it comes from. It was always like me and my younger brother, or me and my older brother, and then, or like them two against me. It was never like, the 3 of us collaborating together,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So I think because I've always been in the middle of that situation, I've always had to navigate the group, right? Yeah. And I think that translates into what I do these days.
That's interesting. I guess that I never would have thought about the family situation, but also as like an only child, I guess I don't think about that often.
Well, I mean, we all go through that development process, and that ultimately determines who we are. So,
sure.
Taking those lessons and those experiences and trying to figure out how to apply them, I would contribute a lot of my success to my understanding of sociology and psychology. You know, because if I know how people act and I know how they think, it's a lot easier to deal with them. But then I can also understand myself, right, which is the biggest key to that puzzle. Because if I know who I am and what I'm about, then I can't be taken back by what anyone else does. I can just see it for what it is and allow it to process through me and then move towards what is ultimately my end goal.
And what is your end goal?
My end goal right now is to change lives and help people.
Okay.
And I think Everyone Makes Progress does that. I think teaching people how to develop technology will help a lot more people than I can do on my own, which is why I'm intertangled with the things that I'm doing.
If we look at this like a year from now, a year from today, what would make this like a success? Like Everyone Makes Progress. You're like what are the benchmarks the metrics that you have to gauge your success within the next year?
If people are using the app,
okay,
that's good enough for me, right? Even if it's most people wouldn't say this, but if it's one person using it and you know I can watch them transform their life through that process, that's success to me. When you want to talk about like business success, you know, obviously if we've raised capital and we've gotten this thing outside of Cleveland as our go-to-market strategy is to attack Cleveland and then expand from there. So, you know, next year at this time we should be outside of Cleveland based on our roadmap. You know, so that's kind of the things that I'm looking at, like how many lives have we affected, how many people are using the thing, right, and have we actually made it outside of Cleveland?
Sure. And so let's say you get out of Cleveland, where's the first place you're going to go with your company?
So I don't want to divulge that part of the strategy.
Sure.
But we have a few target cities to expand from.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is the easiest way to leave an area is to spread through the region.
Sure.
So that might give you some hints as to where we.
You're going straight to San Jose.
You know, obviously you got to think, man. We're 3 hours from Detroit, 6 hours from Chicago, right? 2 hours from Columbus, 2.5 hours from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's 4 hours down the road. You know, there's a lot of things right here. We may not have to go very far.
Yeah.
When you start looking at the numbers, though, you know, you're talking blockchain, crypto. You might want to look in Boston, San Francisco, because there's a lot of healthy, active people there. You know, there's things going on all over Colorado.
Yeah.
We have some connections out in Colorado based on things we've been working on over the last couple of months, so that could be a possibility. And then, you know, Seattle, Phoenix kind of jump on the list based on people we know, things that we know are going on.
Those are techie cities too.
Well, and it's all like, they're not just techie cities, they're also like want to be healthy, want to be fit, want to understand my health and wellness, right?
Yeah.
Cities. So when you can find places that do both, it's a lot easier to get them to accept what we're trying to do.
It's very true. What kind of challenges have you overcome through Everyone Makes Progress so far? Like, what were the biggest obstacles you've overcome?
So I think the biggest obstacles were identifying the exact way to get the MVP developed, right? Trying to navigate through the Cleveland entrepreneurial ecosystem, which has been probably, I would say, the largest challenge.
Just because of personalities, or just hard to get in?
I don't want to.
Yeah, hard to get in.
I can't speak on what I mean. Yeah. Obviously, you know, if you'd seen me 6 months ago, I had dreads and I got these tattoos, and so I don't know. Maybe it's the way I speak. I got a deep Barry White voice, right? I don't know why people.
You're conforming, my man.
Why people have the hesitation. I think ultimately what it boils down to is, like I said before, is not lack thereof the resources. It's just lack of the amount of resources.
So you think that Cleveland has all the pieces they need, they just don't have enough of them?
Yes, and I think part of the not enough equation falls at early stage startups.
Okay. So just getting that initial seed funding.
The seed funding, the seed advice, right?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You know, it's a lot of great people here that understand business. I think one of our challenges, not so much as the personality, it's the fact that you know, we're operating on blockchain, dealing with cryptocurrency, and it's like, what's this scary thing? Let me take my old school ways and just sit back and see what happens.
Do you find a lot of pushback from investors when you say blockchain, or they don't want to deal with it, or?
So the pushback from investors when it comes to like the tech talk was more around the lines of last year when we started off, we were going to run an ICO.
Okay.
And they were, you know, with all the hype and all the scams that were going on to the ICO community, I think that's what kind of scared people.
Yeah. Okay. And I feel like the ICO buzz came and went. Now when you're talking to not necessarily even investors, but just people in the startup community, what do you think the hesitations are? What's the most common advice people give you in terms of how to market yourself?
Look and feel. They want to know what it looks like, what it feels like for the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's when you're talking mobile applications, that's the biggest piece of the puzzle is, besides getting them to use it, how do you keep them using it, right? And that all falls back on what it looks like, how easy is it to use.
User experience is very important. Yeah.
So that type of stuff.
Yeah, I believe it. When you release it, later this month is like a soft release. Is it going to be an open release, or is it an invite only kind of deal? How do people get involved if they want to?
So right now it's going to be more of like invite.
Okay.
We want to really focus on this first release around creating a small network of users, not only from, you know, the individual users using the app, but also the businesses that will allow people to use the app to enter, or, you know, the businesses that we help put their customers in touch with something that allows them to have a tool to do these types of things, so that we can gain some feedback.
Yeah.
We already have started to work on version 2, and in order to roll out version 2, we kind of need some answers to the user experience.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't make sense to put this thing in anyone's hands that wants it right off the jump, and kind of teeter them away from it because we didn't understand what they were really looking for.
Okay. It makes a lot of sense. Is your test pool all local then?
Yeah, so we have there's a local gym.
Yeah.
That we've started a conversation with. There's a couple of locations. We're trying to utilize and leverage that relationship to get started. But above and beyond that, we've been working on this thing for a little over a year now. So I have spreadsheets of names of individuals that would want to try to use something like this.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's some outside networks of connections that we've made that could tie us to, you know, a bigger user pool.
No, that makes sense. So if somebody wants to learn more about it, obviously we've talked about it a lot, maybe pique some interest. It's remind me of the URL because I know it's not.
So the URL is emp.fitness.
.fitness. I knew it wasn't .com. So
we're actually reworking that website now.
Okay.
The easiest way, if anyone wants to know anything, is just send me a message, Anthony@emp.fitness.
Okay. Yeah.
And you can talk to me directly.
Sure.
Answer your questions. If you know you want to get into some tech stuff, I'll get my CTO on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
We can have conversations. So it's there. We know what we're doing, and we have it built. It's just a matter of making it function properly.
Yeah.
And making it look pretty.
I gotcha. And so if there's anything the internet can do for you, or any asks you have, or anything you want to plug, you know, now's your time. Anything you want to give a shout out to?
Just support Blokland. Support Cleveland. Check out EMP Fitness. Look at what we're doing. Support us. You know, I'm not good at asking people for things.
Sure.
I get out here and I just get it, man. You know, so it's check us out, look at us, see what we're doing. You know, if you want to take control of your data, I mean, one of the elements we haven't talked about is with that ownership of data, people can actually take it and sell it. You know, so you can monetize all this data that you're collecting right now that you don't even know what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so if you're looking for ways to understand what that means, you know, we could talk about that as well.
Yeah, no, that would definitely be that would be a good topic for fortifying your data too, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I should say that too. Read Mike's book, man.
Oh yeah, no, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. Taking the time. I'm happy to be able to have you on my podcast since I was on your podcast.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
everything kind of comes full circle.
I appreciate you inviting me on and letting me share my story a little bit.
Yeah, no, for sure. And obviously we'll get everyone links to the podcast and all those uplinks. So thanks again.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah.